Very interesting. Well, welcome back to the Wizard's Fireplace, office, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to do some crazy stories today. You guys always like the crazy stories of things that I've seen over the years and been in mechanic shops. And we're also going to talk about something interesting I found in the Automobile Catechism, which is from the 1900s, how to work on old cars. Let's get started. So welcome back, guys. I've actually read from this book quite a number of videos ago. It's called Automobile Catechism. And it was given to Evan Road in 1912. This would have been how to maintain your car or how to service your car in 1912. This one's talking about the ignition system. It says, one of the questions is, what is a timer for jump spark ignition? And the answer is a mechanically operated device for closing the primary circuit of a trembler spark coil so that the jump spark is produced in the combustion chamber of the motor at the proper instant. The most general use of a timer is part of the jump spark ignition system in which current is supplied by battery. And then it says, what is the general form of a timer? And the answer is this. Most usual design is consist of an outer casing insulating material, hard rubber or wood, with a hollow cylindrical surface in which metallic contact pieces are set. I think they're actually meaning a distributor. That's basically what they're talking about. They call it a timer, and it has a wood cover over it. There's some really weird words or different terms in here that we don't even hear about anymore. The mechanics of the old days, they really were in a totally new realm. You got to think about, cars weren't around 20 or 30 years before this book was written, so they were kind of figuring it out themselves. It's very interesting to read this book. But thinking of stories, I have some really cool stories I'm going to tell you guys today. Just things I've experienced over the years of running a shop and what it's like. Some of the things you stumble across, it's like, wow, this will be a great story someday. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. One question that Mrs. Wizard asked me the other day is, what is one of the weirdest cars you've ever worked on, the weirdest scenarios? And that one's pretty easy. This was before I was actually running a shop. I was working in a shop. But someone brought us a late 80s Chevy Caprice. And that in itself was not so odd, but it came in because it was having issues, the engine would stall. All right, okay, we'll look at it and we'll see what we find. Well, we got it in there and we started looking under the hood and inside the interior, and we found something really odd. And that was, it had been rewired through the doors, the fuel pump, the engine harness. Everything that was in there was wiring that you would use on the inside of your house. It was Romex 14-2 wiring. It was the stiff stuff that you bend it and it stays in that shape. It's solid copper wiring. And the boss I was working for at that time called the owner of the car and was like, hey, we're not sure what's going on here. And the owner of the car said, well, actually had a bunch of mice and pack rats get into my car and they chewed the wiring to the point of full destruction. All the wiring was just chewed and missing. So I had a 200-foot roll of Romex 14-2 and I proceeded to go ahead and rewire my car. So after the customer described what was going on with this car, the owner, my boss, proposed to him, said, we're going to have you sign a waiver releasing us from liability on this car because of the way it's been wired and everything. And the customer says, I refuse to do that. I'm not interested in signing any waivers. I just want you to fix my car. And at that point, we were just like, nah, bro, we're going to park this car outside. You don't want to sign a waiver. We're not going to be liable for fires or danger or things that could go wrong with this. And after he left and he was gone, we just looked at each other like, who wires their car with house wiring? It was just so odd. It was totally baffling to us. For that whole week, we just kept shaking our head. Really strange. So on to the next one. One of the really crazy stories as well is when we first bought this building and we moved into it, we had some issues with the business that was prior in here before we bought it. They had scheduled deliveries that would come every week. And we actually got motion detected in one of our security or surveillance system. And the guy had parked his long semi-truck in our loading dock overnight. And I arrived in the morning and the guy was kind of upset. He was like, I've been waiting, I got to get this delivery. And it was just like boxes and boxes of items. And we're like, I didn't order any of this. I don't know what you're talking about. And finally he showed me the bill of lading, and it was products that another company that used to be here would sell. And we're like, that company's gone. It's been gone for a while now. They're on down the road. So I point them in the right direction, and you think, okay, well that's done. We finally got that handled. They probably got their addresses changed around, but they didn't. This went on for over a year. Crazy D, we sit in the office. Trucks once or twice a week were constantly pulling in for deliveries for this company. Like, they're not here. I finally contacted the head corporation of this company and sent them an email and said, please update your addresses so that this can be solved. It's constantly taking time out of our day, and it's really making the drivers mad because they're like, it says right here, this is the address of where this business is. And it's like, no, that business has been gone for a long time. And it doesn't even help them that our huge sign on the front of the building says Omega Auto Clinic. They don't care. They just look at the address. Even after their corporate headquarters got involved, it was still another 3 or 4 months of shipments that kept coming in and coming in and coming in. It doesn't happen anymore now. It finally has been solved. But I just didn't understand why that couldn't be solved in over a year's worth of time. But it finally is now, and I'm so glad about that. So not all these stories are bad or negative. We actually had a customer come in that we fixed several of their vehicles, and they were really, really happy with it. And they live in a little bit more wealthy area, not too far from the shop. And they have pieces of equipment that just don't get used anymore. It was actually a trimmer. It's like a weed trimmer, a weed whacker, but it was on wheels. And it'd been sitting a long time in the garage, and the spouse or the wife of this guy said, get that thing out of here. And he was like, well, what do you want me to do? Throw it in the trash? And she said, I don't care what you do with it. Well, he took it down here and just says, here, you guys can have it. I think it's like a $400 weed trimmer. It's like, you guys do good work for us. We're really happy with you being here and helping us out, keep our cars going. If you can use this, you can have it. And ever since, we use it all the time when it's grass mowing season around all the equipment. We have used equipment for sale on the side of the building. And it can get in and out of all the pieces of equipment and trim everything up really fast. It was totally a game changer. It saved a lot of time for us, and it was just an unexpected gift. Just like, here, it's yours, take it. It's like, wow, this is awesome. At the previous building we were at before this one, it was a much smaller building, but we still had camera surveillance. We had cameras posted on the top of the roof looking out over the lot that we were at. And every day at a certain time, a bird would fly up to the camera, and its face would literally be right there in the camera. But it was every day at the same time, like 10:15 or 10:16 in the morning, like clockwork. Crazy D would be looking at the cameras at the screen. He'd be like, oh, the spy bird's back. Every day. And it would look in the camera, and it was looking around, and it got to be where we expected it. And there was one day that came along that we realized we haven't seen Spybird in a long time. And he must have passed away or moved on or something, but it was weird how a bird can become part of your business routine, your daily routine. Oh, look, there's Spybird, he's back. So what happened to him, I don't know, but it was really interesting while it was happening. It was kind of cool. The next one, it would be kind of a complaint as part of doing business. When you invite all customers, you get all kinds of people, which is understandable. But we had one customer we call Mr. Snoopy. We did sell cars at that time. I had a dealer's license. I had cars out on the lot that was in front of the building I was at. But along the building, right at the building, was customers' cars being repaired. timing chains, timing belt, whatever kind of jobs we had going on. Well, one evening I looked on my security system. I check it quite frequently, make sure everything's good to go. And I got an alarm, there was movement. So I checked it out, and this guy, he was kind of a difficult customer, but he was on the lot, but not on the cars for sale. One customer had dropped their car off and they put their key in the key drop, so it was secure and safe, but they forgot to lock their doors. This guy's sitting in the car and trying things, and the next morning the guy comes in and he's like, well, one car out there, I opened the glove box and he started listing things in there that were really personal items. They were really none of his business. They wouldn't be any of my business. I don't go through my customers' stuff. I got on to him. I really laid into him pretty hard. I was like, our cars that are for sale out there are out there. Why are you in my repair customers' cars? He goes, I'm not in looking to buy cars. I just thought I'd start looking at them and start checking them. It's like, so you're telling me you're going to my customers' cars outside and just going through their stuff? Well, yeah. I said, not anymore, you're not. I got the police involved. I said, you come out here again, it's trespassing. I'm going to have you arrested for messing with stuff. And we never did hear from him again, but it was like, who does that? It's just really weird. That was one of the benefits and actually one of the driving factors of me buying such a large building that I have now, is that my customers' cars can be inside, out of the weather, locked up, so Mr. Snoopy can't get to them anymore. So I really enjoy this big building. So the next one is called neighborhood surveillance. And I guess in this day and time, it can happen to any business that has cameras, surveillance systems. But I kind of know the local sheriff, kind of know him a little bit, and he has my number. So I got a call from the sheriff. He was like, can we meet you at your shop right away and overlook your security system and check the footage on it? This possible runaway situation. Okay, so me and Mrs. Wizard came down here and opened up the shop late in the evening and turned on the system, let him go through it, and they were watching and watching. They went through minutes and minutes and minutes of footage over the past hours and hours, and they finally stopped it and they found it, and there was this, what was he, like a 12-year-old boy? He just went walking by the business. So once they saw that in the footage, they were able to notice which direction he went, and based on the footage they looked at in our business, they were able to find him and bring him back home and have a happy ending to the story. It was just kind of weird that we didn't put those cameras there for that, but I'm glad that we could help out a runaway find his way back home. So that was kind of interesting. What we've had several times, it's not just one occurrence, but we have boxes and boxes be delivered to the shop every day during the week because we order lots of parts. But one day I ordered an O-ring. That's all it was. Just a little O-ring in a plastic sleeve. But I got this huge box, really huge. And I opened it up, and there's all kinds of the air bubbles or the stuffing that was all in there. And I dug around and I found nothing. I just about threw it away. And I found, just stuck to one of the little bubbles was the O-ring I needed. I was like, oh my goodness, I could have thrown that O-ring away. And that was a special size O-ring that I had to special order. I could have thrown it in the trash. It's like, why can't they send it in an envelope? The box is literally big enough that you could put a small television in it. I just was like, wow, I better be more careful when I get these boxes when I think that there's nothing in there. And really, there could be a small, tiny little thing in there. I don't know why they use such large boxes. So obviously the guy boxing us up really didn't care. He was like, yeah, it looks good, ship it out. So, whatever. I just have to be more careful with that. The next one I'll call insurance fraud. There really wasn't any fraud that went on, but it was really kind of odd. I had just purchased this shop, and I had a good level of coverage, but I started to have more and more exotic cars parked in here over the days or the weeks. And I was getting kind of antsy. I was like, what if a tornado comes or a fire or something happens? I may not have enough coverage. I better up it. So I called my insurance agent up. At the time, I think I had $50,000 coverage or something. And I said, I'm going to need $500,000 in coverage for my garage keeper's policy. And he laughed. Nobody has that kind of coverage. He says, Car Wizard, most of the shops I have insured through us have $30,000, $40,000. He says, yours is a little higher, $50,000 coverage. I said, I tell you what, why don't you just come down to my shop and I'll show you around. Okay, so he did. And the first thing he did when he walked out into the large area of the shop is his jaw hit the floor. I said, that's a McLaren MP4 12C. I said, yeah. That's a Lamborghini Murcielago, yeah. That's a Ferrari 360, yeah. That's a Maserati Quattroporte, yeah. So I looked at my insurance agent and I said, yes, I'm aware of what they are, but really think about this for a minute. Close your eyes. And I said, a tornado just came and destroyed every one of these cars. I said, $50,000 won't even pay for one of them. I said, I'm going to start limiting the amount that I have in the shop at a time. I have 2 or 3 of cars like this, but I'm still going to need the $500,000 coverage. And he looked right at me. He was like, this is a rarity. I've never dealt with this before. He says, I may have to get underwriters involved. He finally called me back the next day and he was like, I was able to get you that coverage, but that is the max. If you want to get any more, you're going to have underwriters and a whole bunch of different things involved. But he was like, I thought you, he said, Car Wizard, I literally thought you were pulling my leg. I thought you were full of it, but apparently not. So, and of course my policy went way up after that, of course. Where a customer came in, but the lady had never been here before. She didn't know much about me. She'd heard through the grapevine that I existed. And we have a really good rapport here. We do good work. So this is at my old shop. So the lady came into the office and pulled me aside and she described her car and asked, are you qualified to work on this car? I want to be sure that you have the knowledge and the skills to be able to carry out the task on this car. And I kind of was thinking, maybe she owns a Rolls Royce or something. I explained to her, I said, yeah, we're qualified. We're definitely able to work on your car. I'd be happy to work on your car. So she took me out to the front door and showed me her car. It was a 2002 Lincoln Town Car. I was like, okay, yes, we're definitely qualified to work on that one. So we went back inside and scheduled it and everything. But really what was odd to me is that the whole time we were talking, there's a door to the shop right here that's glass. It's all glass. You can see right in everything in the shop. And right there next to the door was a 2006 Lamborghini Gallardo. And right in front of it was a Ferrari. It was a Ferrari 355. And I'm thinking, how would we not be qualified to work on your Lincoln Town Car when these customers fully trust me to work on their $180,000 combined car? I was just blown away by that. But anyways, it was really, really weird. So the next one, and is also the last one, is kind of odd as well. And I call this one Chop Shop. Like I said in a previous one of the little stories I gave, I kind of know the sheriff and some of the local law enforcement here. And I had one come by one day, one of the detectives that works for the sheriff's department. He said, I just wanted you to know something, Car Wizard. And I said, what's that? He says, first of all, can I take a tour of your shop? I said, okay. So he did, and he walked around. He's a Car Wizard fan. He goes, wow, this place is cool. He says, but that's not why I'm here. Why I'm here is because we haven't gotten 1 or 2 calls, but we've gotten over 10 calls from the public that live in the local area that are concerned that you're running a chop shop. The kind of cars that are coming and going out of this shop, it has to be a chop shop. You're cutting them up and selling the pieces. You're taking these Lamborghinis, you're taking these Ferraris and cutting them down to the frame. He says, I know better. I'm a Car Wizard fan. I know about Hoovie's Garage. I know that you're fixing these cars. I know that they're going, and these are valid customers and you have a valid business here. He said, but I just wanted to tell you that it's so weird. He said, I actually had one guy argue with me. He's like, no, that's a chop shop. You got to get in there and make an arrest. I said, no, sir, we're not going to arrest the Car Wizard. If you want to watch his videos, you can, and you can see that there's no chopping going on in that shop. So I guess the local community here, they just never seen cars like that. And when they come into the area, it really freaks them out. And the last thing the detective told me before he left, one person, a lady, actually called and said, okay, I get it, it's not a chop shop, but I don't want to see those cars in my city. They piss me off. And the detective's like, ma'am, he's not breaking any laws. I don't care. I don't want to see those cars. They piss me off. Well, sorry, man. You're going to have to keep seeing them because he's not breaking any laws. And the lady hung up. But wow, that's weird. It's just, those are things that happen in a business that you don't expect. You would never think that that would even happen. But it definitely has here at Omega. So thanks for following along. I know you guys like the stories that I have in the shop. In the previous videos I've done, they do really well because you guys like to hear, what is it like? What are the things you run into in the business? And those are some of the things that you run into. If you're curious what kind of tools I use in the shop, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, I really recommend you do that now because we got many more cool projects going on in the shop. Thanks for watching.